So yesterday I put up a short video about, it was Friday the 13th, and I was sharing a story about the Enochian dictionary. It wasn't even really a spooky story, but anyway, so I got some feedback on it because in it I mentioned summoning a demon, which really, I shouldn't have even said that word. I should have said entity. An entity. Using that book as well as another one called the Goetia, Lesser Key of Solomon, a cursed book. For those of you who know what you're doing, don't read this book. For those of you who don't know what you're doing, definitely don't read this book. I did know what I was doing, and 7 years later, still cursed. Anyway, as well as, in conjunction with the Enochian dictionary, both of which were given to me by my father, who is a neophyte of the OTO. So I have had a lifelong lesson on magic and in practice, and the OTO. I had said yesterday as well, if you don't know what that is, look it up. It is a cult. I don't even really like using that word because it comes with this connotation, a negative connotation, and to me, the OTO, you'll read things on the internet, but anyway, long story short, I don't really like calling it a cult because to me it is more than that. So he had given me these books when I was quite young after many teachings on the subject. So it's 2012, beginnings of 2012, and it was a Friday the 13th. Go figure. And I was living in an apartment with an old friend of mine, and we decided, she was into sort of the spookier things as well, and we decided that let's do a seance, let's give it a go. We're just really goofing around, and her friend who lived in the same complex came over, and so I'm running the thing, the one with the most practice here, and we make a circle of salt, and really it's all in good fun. Now, I take it very seriously, so, I went into it very level-headed, and I told them, let's be calm, and, no joking, no laughing. It's a very, very serious thing. We make a circle of salt in our dining room, and we light candles. If you're going to do it right. And there's no one else there, just us. So, and my memory is a little fuzzy on this, but we take turns reading. We start with the Enochian dictionary, the calls in the back to the ethers, and we each read them aloud, taking turns by candlelight, and nothing really is happening from what I recall. I think there were some scratches. And then we come to the Goetia, which the Enochian dictionary, as I explained, is the angelic language of the angels, so it is a more positive book, if you will. The Goetia, there's a lesser key and a greater key. This, of course, is the lesser key, which is of demonic origin, the names and sigils of demonic entities and their invocations. So we then get to the Goetia and we read it, and I can't remember, because we did it, I think we did this 2 or 3 times, and this was the first one, but no apparitions appeared, nothing like that, nothing grand, like I think they might have been expecting. I certainly wasn't, but just to get, a knock or scratch, to me was a feat. Now, I know my friend, during this time, she became very emotional and was just overcome with emotion. She started crying, even though nothing had prompted it, which oftentimes is a sign of something, usually malevolent, present, due to the mood change, overcome with sadness, anxiety, anger. Hers, I guess, was anxiety, and she was crying, but so I do a license to depart after all's said and done, and can you believe those two left me alone in the apartment? They went over to his apartment, I believe. So it's just me, and okay, cool, I'm not going to work myself up, it's fine. So I was sleeping on the couch in the living room, which, basic apartment floor plan, connected to the dining room, is very open. It's just me. Now, her cat is sound asleep. speaking of cats, Magic, his name's Magic, go figure, her cat, Percy, was sound asleep on the entertainment center directly in front of me. I mean, dead to the world. He'd been there all evening. And the dining room light's on, so it's very bright, very illuminated. And the air is very thick. And I couldn't settle down. I was nervous. I was anxious. And out of nowhere, her cat jumps up, wide-eyed, terrified. Out of a sound sleep, jumps up and is staring into the dining room, fixated, wide-eyed, hair is on end, nothing prompted it. He's fixated on something, and I look over and I'm like, Percy? And he doesn't even hear me, and then he stands up on his hind legs, which cats don't normally do that, they're not really built to be bipeds, so he's standing on two hind legs, terrified at something in the dining room, which is where we had commenced said seance. And finally I'm like, Percy, and he drops down and runs off, but he saw something. And I mean, it is worldwide accepted that animals, in particular cats, are sensitive to things of the supernatural. So I get on the phone with my dad, the professional, and I say, Dad, I did something stupid and there's a demon in the house. What do I do? He tells me to scorch some salt on the stove and, walk it around the house, let it just cleanse. So I do that very quickly. I get up, scorch the salt, and I just carry it room to room, in particular the dining room, living room. And it was like a weight had been lifted. Whatever was there, it's like it had walked out the door and was gone. So, not a grand story. I know that's just one of many stories, but that was the first time I had actually used these two books in practice. The second time I did it was by myself after work one day. So it's like 6 o'clock. Disclaimer, on neither occasion had we had anything to drink, and certainly nothing more than that. So it's like 6:30 and it's still light outside, and it's just me in the apartment, and I make my circle, and I'm in the dining room again, and I finish with the Enochian dictionary, and I wait a moment, and the air is kind of getting that heavy feeling again, and then I begin with the Goetia, and I finish the invocation, and this never happened before, and it never happened after, not once. I hear a noise, and I look up into the kitchen, because you can see directly into it, and we had these cabinets above the stove, and slowly you hear this creaking sound, and I watch as the cabinet door above the stove opens. It wasn't like it was loose, and it never did it prior. It was just one cabinet door. And the point of, the invocation is to invoke, to bring about, and I firmly believe that something was there, because, when doing so, you'll, ask for acknowledgement, humbly, which I had done, and the cabinet door opens. I didn't know what to do. My God, what have I done? Satan's in my house. It was terrifying, to say the least, and, that's coming from somebody who has studied it. Demonology, magic, mysticism for their whole life. And suddenly, and it may seem like nothing, but it wasn't nothing, because the setting, what you're attempting to do, and then you do get that sign that something is in the room with you. There is a presence greater than yourself is here. What do? So I froze, and I got, overwhelmed with fear. Because, again, the Goetia is the lesser key. So you're not asking for something good to come. It's usually, lower on the totem pole, guys. Your demons. Again, I don't really like saying angels or demons, because you get a certain connotation. And I try to separate that, from the Christian aspect to just an overall entity. So I did my license to depart. I, said thank you, but goodbye. And that was it. I didn't mess with it alone after that. on the final time I did it, it was just days before I moved out. It was me and another friend. So, you know, there are witnesses to many of these accounts, and all the furniture and such was out. And behind me, there was a closet in the dining room, and he heard it as well as I. Something was scratching right at the door from inside the closet, on the floor, as well as, you know, the base of the door. And we never had a rodent problem. There was never any kind of infestation, no critters in our home. So, again, something was making itself known, as I had asked. So I do not recommend going into this happy-go-lucky, hey, let's be spooky, guys. You need to really know what you're doing and take it seriously. Well, one, if you're not taking it seriously, you're not going to get a good response. Because if, you know, you're just goofing off, you know, maybe not, maybe the entity is feeling like messing with you. I don't know. Because you hear all these stories with, you know, kids playing with Ouija boards. I have one, and not to glow, but it glows in the dark. So y'all should be pretty jealous about that. But, you know, go into it with a mindset of what you're doing, the gravity of the situation. Take it seriously, and, you know, don't be respectful when you do this, because angel, demon, again, it is something of grandeur, and you need to remember that. But I do not recommend it. I do recommend the Enochian Dictionary, because as I said in yesterday's video, it is, it helped me. I truly believe that this book in particular helped me gain wisdom and insight into certain matters, and opened up my mind. As crazy as, and y'all can think I'm crazy or debunk it, whatever. I mean, I know, and as to the stories I just told you, as well as others, there are witnesses to them. This one, on the other hand, I don't recommend this one. This is a cursed book, Lesser Key of Solomon, which I'm not even sure anybody knows who wrote it. There's some of the sigils, demonic sigils. I mean, it is interesting, but I don't even feel comfortable just reading this, not in practice, not in a seance or anything, but I don't even feel comfortable opening it and just reading it casually. It's not something you read casually, in my opinion. Maybe others more learned would say differently, but it is my niece's favorite bedtime story, so I'm actually going to head out and I'm going to go read them their favorite story. So, bye.